All right. We are here. We're live. I'm here with you for more music. This is the 33rd week of 2025, and that's kind of crazy. I guess I've noticed the weeks ticking up from week to week, but I guess it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We have kind of a full schedule today. We have 14 releases. I'm just going to run through real quick. We have at least one release in each category. So that is a bit of a departure from last week where it was pretty much concentrated to two. We're going to open with electronic music. We got one release there. Then we're going to move to rap and hip hop. We have three. Then we are going to move to rock and metal. And that is where the vast majority of them are going to be. I don't know, probably like 8, 7. And then we are actually going to end with pop and indie. And we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end, because as of yesterday, I was pretty sure that there wasn't even really any pop and indie that we were going to be talking about. And then, as you can see, well, as of today, 24 hours later, we have a situation where I actually moved pop and indie because I think the best album of the week is there. But I'm not going to dally any longer. Let me just go ahead and pop the screen over like that. Oh, and I am going to talk a little bit too, if I remember, about some other things connected to Russian streaming services and why, if you have the option to not use them, you should really not use them moving forward. But we'll get to that at the very end. Let's talk about the music right now. So up first, we have, and this is the only electronic release, but this is an electronic release. This actually came out earlier in the month, as you can see, August 1st. And I had listened to it before. I just didn't actually get around to talking about it. This is an album which is inspired by the late Soviet space program. The sound here feels a lot like the Detroit techno of Drexcia, but instead of it being Afrofuturism in the Lost Kingdom of Atlantis, we get an IMD light soundtrack to exploring and learning about the cosmos. The song titles are all references to the study of the universe's background radiation. I can't remember the exact term for it in English, but like that field, that picture of purples and yellows and stuff like that. We've probably all seen it. I know I have many times. But yeah, the songs are all connected to the background radiation of the universe and theories of cosmology. Musically, this feels at times robotic and kind of inhuman, but not in a bad way. The reason for that being that obviously the sound's very electronic, but the rhythms are very complex, a lot of break beats. But then at times the music can be quite uplifting, inspirational, as can be learning about space, right? It kind of reflects that in some ways. But then, similarly, learning about space, the music can then become very cold and not paranoid, but sort of worrying. Just like thinking about the vastness of the universe can also instill an existential dread of sorts within a person. So this is a good listen, I would say, for headphones on a clear night when you can look at the stars. Let me just go ahead and I want to. That's great. Let's start with this one. Probably gonna have to jump ahead a bit. Right, it has like a bit of a sci-fi type of feel to it right here. Glad to see you there. End of story. So I'm just going to jump around a little bit. It's not soundtrack music per se, but it is also music that's not really, like, it requires you to actually sit down and listen to it. Not to say that you need to sit down and listen to the whole album as a whole, but at least sit down and take a few tracks in at one setting. It's one of those situations just because of the way it's not a traditional song structure, right? It does feel more revelatory and just like exploring the universe, right? There's these unexpected discoveries in the songs as you come along. And it's like, again, it's a very nice vibe. And I do feel like with electronic music, obviously things connected to space and technology are very easy kind of inspirations. But that's not to say that people default to them very often. So, and obviously, like, the whole Soviet space program is such an interesting thing and an interesting time period in the space programs as well. So there's a lot of different vibes you can get on this album. You go for more spacious, right? More ominous, if you will. But yeah, and I love the song titles. They are all direct references to either like various probes and telescopes, Prognos 9, R7 Semyorka, or just like various, what is it? Is it the cosmological background radiation? I don't remember, but like just all of these ideas. Anyway, get the idea. It's not one of those like dancey electronic albums. It is one of those that realistically you do want to probably spend a little bit of time with and be in the right mood for. But as it stands, it's an interesting concept, and it's well executed. So yeah, that is Relict or Relict 1, Relict 1 probably, and the artist is Andrey Rasputin. I did not mention that before. And the artwork is actually kind of an homage to what was an actual Soviet, not probe, but sort of space telescope type thing. Maybe it was a probe. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, that's it for electronic music. We are going to move immediately on to rap and hip hop. All right. I got to get my notes back up here too. So first one up here, we have an EP, Blue Eyes Demon, and the artist is КРИСПИ. КРИСПИ, I guess. Yeah, musically, this is what I would call radio rap. Kind of that sounds a lot like pop music. But I was actually really surprised when listening to this. КРИСПИ here has got some bars. He can actually rap. It's not the auto-tuned mindlessness that so many of his peers seem infatuated with. And I was actually a little bit surprised when I started looking at his back category. I've never heard of КРИСПИ before, I'll be completely honest. And it turns out he already has 4 other LPs. He's been releasing 1 LP per year for the last, like 4 years now, right? So, there we go. Let's get that sort of sized up on my laptop down here. So, anyway, with the music, great production, great beats. Saluki is on the album. I love Saluki. I feel like maybe he is... Actually doesn't list him here. It's on Yandex Music. He's listed. I don't remember which track he's on. I think it's on the 5th or the 6th one. So maybe that's partly to do with it. I don't know if he has deeper ties with Saluki. I will also say too, there is some English throughout the album. It's mostly in Russian, but there is English throughout the album, and KRISPI pulls it off quite well. It does not feel forced. It does not feel stilted. It feels quite natural. So yeah. Really nice release. Very much that sort of new school sound, but it's not super new to drive away some of the old heads or people who are less familiar with it. So I'm just going to jump into it here. Right, it's got a lot of the, I don't know, pop rap aesthetics, musically speaking, but he's got a flow. And it's got a catchy chorus, like. So, right, like, that's what I'm saying. It's like kind of that radio rap, right? Crispy definitely has some flow. But then those choruses, that sort of belting out, he's got some chops on him, too, for some singing, at least in his own particular style. So, yeah, again, like, that sort of this feels a lot like Saluki rapping, and I don't know if that's just like the general trend in Russian rap right now for a lot of artists. It probably is, but like the instrumentals, right? Just how everything's put together is very, very well done in my opinion. So it's catchy. It's definitely, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, sometimes you want something that's I don't know, not mindless necessarily, but just like all in all enjoyable. And a lot of times this singing rap style can be tiring, I suppose is how I'll describe it. But with the vibe, the atmosphere, just like the general musical ensemble that is constructed here, it kind of fits. Right, there's the English. Like, he just throws English in there from time to time, and it doesn't feel out of place necessarily. He just like slips into it, and I've mentioned that in the past. I think that's always a great thing. So yeah, anyway, you get the idea. That is the EP Blue Eyes Demon. The artist is Crispy. I guess not a new name in the game, but still one who I was completely unfamiliar with. So quite a, again, short 15-minute little listen here, but quite enjoyable. It's got that sort of, again, dark R&B vibe, like early The Weeknd. That's kind of a very popular thing these days. I get it, I guess. But yeah. All right, now we're going to move on. The next two releases we're going to talk about simultaneously, and then I'm going to sort of play tracks off both of them because they're both from the same artist, Avenuepluggg. There's the outdoor EP and then the indoor EP. So we got another young, relatively underground rap artist here. I've seen him featured on a number of releases from other bigger names this year, so I would assume he's something of a rising star. I think his first release is from a few years ago. Yeah, he's been putting out a regular stream of EPs and LPs as well. Then in August, on the 1st, he dropped the outdoor LP. And then 2 weeks later, on the 15th, he dropped the indoor LP. So first of all, props to that. I love when artists do that type of thing where they have like some sort of theme and then they release the albums, well, in rapid fire or at a specific interval. With the group Bureau and their EPs that were themed around the 4 seasons, I was also a huge fan of that, like every single season. And then there's also a rap Hipma, a rap duo who have done the same thing where each season they put out a new EP. So when artists do that, I always think that's a great thing. It's kind of nice. And here, the outdoor indoor allows the artist to kind of focus on two different sides of his personality, two different vibes. So the first one, outdoor, is that sort of more classic Russian trap sound. It's lyrically focused on the streets, hustling, right? Various illegal or dubious activities. And then the second one, Indoor, is focused on internal thoughts, just reflections on life and self-doubt, right? So like kind of outdoors, all of the posturing and the sort of the facade of the individual, and then indoor is more, and you can see that too from the artwork, right? We've got like the sort of various illegal activities, right? Sort of, I don't know, the artwork is, kind of horrible, but whatever. And then indoor, we have sitting by himself, alone inside, kind of cut off from the rest of the world, and very much alone in his head. So yeah. Oh, and musically too, on the indoor one, it feels a lot closer to like this sort of chill indie underground rap of the early 2000s. So there were some weak spots on these EPs. I was not a huge fan of the outdoor one as much as I was of the indoor one. I thought the indoor one was stronger all around. But yeah, I'll just sort of jump into it a little bit. Give us two tastes from both of them.
Большой не в черте города, он в лесу. Сколько там, тащи костяк сюда, поведай суть. С другого взял, этот еще не тронутый. Отправит на покой, не собирая проводы. В этой яме сыро так, и ты дрожишь от холода. Я сделаю никак иначе.
So, yeah. That sort of harder street sound, if you will.
Вся грязная хуйня не нам, мы не теряем разум. Плюсую сумку, еще больше не покинул вазу. Ты стрёмно делать кэшмен, стрёмно, если будешь красным. Им не понять всё, им не поднять даже треть. Их слова лишь шумят вокруг, как лёгенькие.
So again, we have that, like I said just a second ago, that sort of street sound, if you will. A little bit harder around the edges. So that's outdoor. That's the outdoor EP. And then we're going to jump over to the indoor EP.
Avenuepluggg, блядь. Такая хуйня вот, идея. И даже честно поебать на то, что нету манер. И надо только, чтобы было своё манер. Проблема не в тебе, проблема точно во мне. В голове
right? That beat. Like, it's not Jurassic 5 or anything like that. The other instrumentation is lacking, but it has that, like, the samples are jazzier, a little bit lighter, more real instrumentation. And there's no front that's being put on here. It's definitely much more kind of also Creep is here, who had like a really great album, I think in the second quarter of this year. So лишь аккуратно плыть. Он так запачкал руки, что их вовсе не отмыть. Окей, красиво было раньше, только кто же мы теперь? Идея тебе вытянул, и мне давно не снится доброе. Брожу где-то на дне, теперь, малышка, честно, я так рад, что мы с тобой встретились. Они нас не догонят, хоть их подгоняют плетями. В этом спринте катаю в соло и не стать мне третьей.
Влетать неожиданно в гости и с кровью битыми стеклами, словно в кабину копыта от сбитого лося. Федералам так сложно вычислить босса, ударишься на.
So yeah, and then you have, like, again, like I said, that kind of more laid back but introspective type of rap on the indoor EP. So yeah, we have two releases from the artist Avenuepluggg. That's plug with 3 G's for whatever reason. And that is the outdoor and then the indoor EPs, which I feel like even though they are released separately, they both did come out in August. I got around to listening to both of them this week. Oddly enough, it's because when the second EP came out, I was kind of had this thought in my mind, haven't I seen Avenuepluggg somewhere in my playlist already? And then I did. I was like, wait, that's kind of odd. And yeah. And I do think that they should be listened to, kind of opposite sides of the same coin, right? The yin to the yang, if you will. But yeah. And that's it for rap and hip hop this week. We had 3 EPs, 2 of them by the same artist, although technically one of them was from the start of the month. Let's move on to rock and metal, because this is realistically where we had a... Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I think I'm missing one of them. Hold up. You're going to get a glimpse into what is to come. I am missing one of them. Okay. Give me a second here. I thought I had them all open, but I guess I did not. So we are going to... I can type fairly quick in Russian, can't I? Okay. So the reason this is not open is because I listened to this... honestly, like 5 days ago, the first time, and then I kind of forgot about it. And as I was getting everything organized, I was just listening to some stuff I had in my August playlist. And I threw this one back on because it's a really short EP. It is 12 minutes long. And I was like, oh yeah, I should probably talk about this. And so I put it in my notes, but then I didn't actually add it to the tabs. So this is the group Смерть на пляже, Death on the Beach. And the EP is Солнечный удар, or Sunstroke. It's been a long time since we've had one of those punk-o-rama releases, but this is the sound that would have felt right at home on one of Epitaph's sampler records from 25 years ago. I was getting a lot of Millencolin vibes while listening to this, although you could maybe feel a little bit of the Bad Religion there as well. It's just really fast, sort of fun punk energy, or like suburban punk energy, but... Also, I love the artwork. Like, this is the music that would have been on a Tony Hawk soundtrack, right? I mean, like a 720 Benihana over a whatever into a backside crooked grind 360 flip out or something, right? Even vocally, I can't think of who the vocalist reminds me of. I think it is Bad Religion a little bit. All right, just one more. I mean, there's only 5 tracks, and I've kind of showed you 3 of them, but it's probably pretty obvious from the first one already what sound is, so. It's okay. Like I said, we haven't had a punk-o-rama style release in a while. I feel like in the spring, late spring, there were a lot of them, but recently not so much. So yeah, just a nice fun little one like that. That is the EP Солнечный удар, and the group is Смерть на пляже. Moving on, we'll go back to the one that I had opened. This is Новый, дивный мир, which is the translated name of Aldous Huxley's famous novel Brave New World. And the group is Psilocybe Larvae. I think that's how you pronounce it. Okay. This is melodic prog death metal. I don't know. I'll just play a little bit. You'll figure it out yourself. They're coming out of St. Petersburg. The group describes themselves as a manic depressive band. So that's kind of why I went with just sort of describing it as melodic prog death. There's a lot of like back and forth with the energies, which is a very prog thing to do. I don't really know what manic depressive metal is. It just feels like it would be fast and then slow, but I don't know. Anyway, the group's been actually making music for about 30 years. This is their new EP, and the reason it's kind of interesting, I've never heard of them before. So even though they've been in the game for a long time, they're kind of still an underground thing. This is their first time singing in Russian. It says it's a single, but it's like we have 3 tracks and 13, almost 15 minutes long, realistically. These 2 tracks right here are the first tracks that they've ever released in Russian. And I honestly feel like this is a re-recorded version of a song from an album they released about 20-some years ago. The Russian ones sound a lot better. So I haven't obviously listened to really any of their back catalog other than the re-recorded version, but just based on that, I would say that the Russian one comes off a lot better. That is oftentimes the case where artists tend to work better in their native language. There is actually an interesting discussion to be had about the Russian language in the metal community, and I've actually seen a lot of discourse about this and listened to people's actual metalists' opinions when it comes to singing or like doing metal vocals in Russian. I've heard a lot of kind of mixed messages. Some people think it's just like horrible and it's impossible to make work. And then other people are able to pull it off fine. Anyway, I think they did a really good job with these tracks. I'm just going to jump into it so that discussion is interesting, but it's not one we're going to have here right now. So it's all right. Yeah, we kind of very low energy. Also, great album artwork, right? Psilocybe. That's how I should pronounce it, right? Psilocybe Larvae. So, right, really slow, really like laid back. I'm assuming this is the depressive end of the manic depressive. Then we jump more into this. Even though I skipped, it transitions very well. So. I feel like that's what they mean by manic depressive, right? We kind of we start with one mood and one speed, and then we kind of ramp it up to the other. It's good. It's good. I mean, I guess if they've been doing this for 30 years, then they've got, a little bit of some experience there. So again, we have like kind of the very let me actually do the transition there. All right, there it is. Yeah, honestly, like I said, never heard of this group before. I mean, if you like it, obviously go check this out. Maybe look into their back catalog too, because it's relatively extensive. But I hope that at some point in the next year they'll release an actual full length with more of the Russian end of things, because like I said, in my opinion, they do a better job, at least between these tracks, that the Russian ones were better than the re-recorded English tracks. So yeah, that is the EP Новый, дивный мир, and the group is Psilocybe Larvae. That's at least how I'm pronouncing it. So moving along, we have another EP. We have a few more EPs here. All right, this is the EP Остаться, and the group is, I'm assuming it is misericorde. So sound-wise, and this is going to sound really stupid, but just bear with me here. Sound-wise, I would call this emo post-hardcore, but there are moments of post-punk in there. And I know that sounds messy, but when you hear the sound, which I'll play here in just a second, if you've dabbled around any of those genres in the last 2 decades, you'll recognize the sound here to some degree. The guitars are fuzzy, but raw, kind of like a blanket made out of fiberglass, if you will. And the male-female vocals strike a nice balance. This is a duet, right? It's a duo. The male vocalist on the guitar and the female vocalist on the drum set. So yeah, there's kind of a nice balance between the two of them. It allows pretty much anyone to feel like they can sing along, right? There's that nice dichotomy between the male-female vocals, and it's a very powerful release for just being 4 tracks and 10 minutes long. It kind of feels like a cleaner sounding Japandroids, and I love Japandroids. That duo managed to pack so much sound and emotion into tracks with just 2 people on there. So misericorde achieved something similar here, and I'm kind of looking forward to see what they have in store in the future. Emo post-hardcore. I mean, kind of works. It's not all super fun. I forgot. Yeah, the drums are pretty incessant, so but I guess that's good. Been mostly male vocals so far. Where are... Hold on. There they are together. But for just the 2 of them, there's a lot of oomph behind it all. Alright, I gotta find the female vocals now. There it is. So they kind of... They take turns going back and forth with it. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna cut it there. That is the EP Остаться, and the group is misericorde. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Misericorde. So, yeah, an interesting duo. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what they do with perhaps a full length. Okay, we have one more EP, and then we get into full lengths, and it's all full lengths from here on out. But let's talk about this last EP, because this is a hell of an EP too. All right, this is the group. I think it's pronounced Arrkaim, and the EP is Kошмары, which are nightmares in Russian. So we got 5 tracks with lyrics all ripped straight out of a horror film. In fact, the group specifically mentions The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Outsider, and Long Legs as inspirations for these tracks, or just like straight out of your nightmares in general. This EP from a group out of Omsk, which I think this is the first group out of Omsk in all of the weeks I've been doing this so far. I think this is the first Omsk group, so shout out to Omsk. It feels a lot like Knocked Loose's A Different Shade of Blue EP. As far as the sound, the artists say there are elements of like thrall or djent music in here and metalcore as well, which is true, but like at the heart of this is that sort of like new hardcore sound. Like I said, if you know Knocked Loose, especially maybe not so much their last album, but again, a certain shade of a different shade of blue EP, then you're going to recognize this sound. Just buckle up. Yeah, there you can see blackened metalcore from Siberia. I guess it's a pretty straightforward way of expressing it too. The one thing I will say dislike about Spotify is that there are no Russian lyrics. It's kind of annoying. The slams. Jump around a bit. Like this is like that sort of deathcore, metalcore sort of sound. Those chunky, those weird. Просто качает. Качает просто. Охренеть. Ай-яй-яй. Yeah, this is a really solid EP. Because it does not let up like the whole time. Again, the second track is, if I had to choose one as like the weakest of them. Oh, and then also I gotta shout out the final track with I don't know if it's Kursha or Kersha, but I don't remember where they're from. They released an absolute just like fat slab of metal last year, so to see them show up here too was like kind of a nice. Anyway, you get it by now. Yeah, that is the EP Kошмары, and the group is, as I'm like Arrkaim, I think is how they want it. Also, just absolutely the most metal artwork you could possibly come up with. So, kudos to them on that. Yeah, really, really heavy stuff. Moving on though, we're out of the EP. This says EP. I'm not gonna call it an EP though. It does not feel like an EP. Anyway, we'll have that discussion in a second. Next up, we have the if you're not used to metal in Russian, the metal scene in Russian honestly right now is it's hard to say, because I feel like the metal scene in general is a very there hasn't been any major push forward. It hasn't been like anything majorly new in the, I don't know, like last decade. I probably sound like a boomer at this point in time for saying just things, but like I haven't really seen anything that just has felt like a paradigm shift, if you will. But I do feel, at least in the black metal scene, and we're going to be coming back to that in a little bit, at least in the black metal scene, Russia is sort of at the top of the game when it comes to that. But like I said, we'll get to that in just a little bit. Right up now, we have the album Polutona. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, the group is Proкрастинация, procrastination. This energetic emo pop punk kind of mixes indie rock into the mix. This is a group out of St. Petersburg. And yeah, honestly, this album feels like a really good match with the cool, overcast and rainy August that we've been having here, at least in the European part of Russia. Yeah, metalcore, but that was honestly kind of a long time ago too. The music here is slightly melancholic, but it is energetic, kind of refuses to be cowed by forces beyond its control. And lyrically, though, it is just like very, very emo. It's focused on life, and life that feels like it's coming apart. And of course, beer. There's plenty of beer in the songs too, for better or worse. But yeah, let's just jump into it. Also, the album artwork feels so emo indie, right? Like, just like, but yeah, it's got like the indie rock sort of thing, but it will get into it. Consider this the musical sorbet after the last one before we get to the main course in the metal category, right? A bit of a palate cleanser. Right? It's got that sort of, like I said, emo pop punk. It's good. It's good. I don't like, aside from people who are posturing, right? Teenagers for the most part, or old heads who have not gotten over themselves. I don't know anyone who doesn't like this sound. This is just like a really enjoyable, fast, fun rock sound. It's not complicated, but like that's why it's so appealing to most. But I said that there were some songs that were a little bit more indie, right? Indie rock. I do want to find, I think this is one of them. No, it's not. All right, I should have put this in my notes. This has got more of the emo vibe, though. Maybe this one. All right, I don't know anymore. No, it's the 6th track. It's got to be the 6th track at this point in time. Yeah, okay. What is the 6th? Right. So it's not all, like I said, that sort of fast pop punk / emo sound. There is something that's there are moments that are a bit more reserved. I mean, to be fair, there are plenty of songs like this on emo albums and pop punk albums too, but so yeah, I do, and I do love. This feels like it could be ripped off of the soundtrack from a early 2000s teen comedy. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. So yeah, if you want something that's just more straightforward and fun, definitely less heavy, then check out Proкрастинация. That is the album Polutona. Good stuff. All right, getting back into the heavier end of things again. Hoorah! And you can tell immediately from the album artwork that you're in for, well, with album artwork like this, there's a few options, but this is tech death. Let's just get that out of the way. So, in fact, as I have in my notes, this is so absurd, but if it's like when you hear it, this is extreme progressive tech death. It's kind of deep, though, into the industrial cyber vein of things. The album really leans into the concept of humanity losing its humanity through evolution via technological modification, an idea that no matter how many times we come across it in the metal world, it never really feels exhausted, probably because each time a group attempts to do something like this, technology has changed, or our relationship to technology has changed. So our understanding of losing humanity through technology also becomes different as well, right? Like Obsolete by Fear Factory way back in the day versus Cena, soвершенства by Human Time here, their views on technology were markedly different because there's like a 30-year gap between the two of them. But yeah. The use of the electronic elements on the tracks here do help to create that atmosphere the album is trying to create of this sort of like futuristic technological society. So props to them for that. Sound-wise, this reminded me a lot of old Job for a Cowboy. So like Bearing the Serpent's Lamb type of Job for a Cowboy. Archspire, which if you don't know Archspire, I'm pretty sure they're Canadian, but holy hell, those dudes are out of control. Nile, for a more general old school one, and Obscura. Although with Nile and Obscura, that sound, but just a little dialed back. These guys are not super, super fast when it comes to like the extreme end of the tech death, but I realize that I'm probably speaking like a foreign language at this point. Let me just play a little bit. So yeah, I guess brace yourselves for most people. This is like relatively chill. Gotta. There it is. If you care to listen, you'll hear these like little things going on in the background, like there's all sorts of weird little things like throughout this album that really lead into that, I don't know, otherness to it. Yeah. You don't have to listen to much Archspire to know what it is, but dude, the album's so hard. I love that album. Yeah, I don't know what it's like. So yeah, it's fast, it's heavy. It's not as fast as some of those groups I mentioned earlier, but it's still very fast. But I am going to be completely honest. This type of metal we really do not get very often here in Russia, or at least that I'm aware of. So, like, the fact that it exists is a plus. They do have the speed, though, right? Right, we got those like weird industrial technological sounds here. For those of you who do not speak Russian, the album title, Цена, совершенства, are the sort of like the price of perfection, ultimately, is what it translates to. Right? Like, they definitely try to go for an atmosphere here. It's not just all balls to the wall, sort of like bam, 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 bam type stuff. But, I mean, like, there's plenty of that, too, so... I think that's enough. I think for the people who are interested in that, they've got an idea. I gave my references with Archspire and Nile and Obscura and early Job for a Cowboy. So yeah, if you're into that, hey, this is a great album. The group it's kind of an odd group name. I'm not gonna lie, Human Time, but sure. And the album is Цена, совершенства, as I mentioned before. So. Really good, as I called it, extreme progressive tech death. So, which is kind of ridiculous, but okay. So this says it's an EP. I'm just gonna quick explain my general rules for what I consider an EP. My general rule of thumb is if it's like under 20 minutes. So basically, it's one of those things where it's like, if it is 6 tracks or less than 20 minutes. So like, if you have 4 tracks, but it's like a prog metal thing, and the album is 35 minutes long, then it's not an EP. Like, that's just like, it's just a short album. So in my mind, you have 7 songs here, which at least, again, like I said, in my mind is basically already an album, at least in 2025. But the fact that this is 36 minutes long feels like it's just a short album, not an EP. I realize that this is kind of pedantic, but whatever. I want to mention it because I said we're done with EPs. And as far as I'm concerned, this is not an EP. This is like a full length released. So yeah, the album is My Corni, or My Roots, and the artist is BABAYKA. This is modern black metal out of Yekaterinburg. I've mentioned many times before, I'm not a huge fan of the black metal genre, but honestly, this is so fresh and like modern. I kept forgetting that this was black metal as I was listening to it. The thing that's really good about this album is that there is a lot of usage of traditional singing or instrumentation alongside the sort of unrelenting metal assault, which gives the music an odd sense of lightness. It's kind of like Grima earlier this year when they had the black metal with the accordion in it. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into some examples here. Right, like this. I mean, like, obviously you could, if you know this is a metal, you can kind of put this into your understanding of what metal music might have as an opener, but if you didn't know this was a metal album and you just heard this, you would think that this is like maybe a more traditional. The album artwork could be, I don't know, a little bit brighter. It's a little bit dark, but I mean, like, I guess that's the idea. It's supposed to be like a traditional type of thing. But like, so like you spend so much time at the beginning of the track in that sort of more traditional musical atmosphere, and then this doesn't feel like black metal to me. It's definitely metal, but But there are tracks. I think this is the one that are just straight up. I mean, realistically, you would call this an interlude, but it's 3 minutes long. It's just like a standalone. It's got the ominous. Yeah, I mean, it does. There's a lot of GERA energy, but like realistically, GERA and BABAYKA. GERA's. Man, I don't remember where GERA's from. I don't think they're from Yekaterinburg. I think they're from like Novosibirsk or maybe Tomsk. So further that way, but yeah, like, right? Like, this is, it's got the ominous guitars, but the sort of traditional instrumentation. I'm all for it, right? It's experimental, it's different, and if we're talking about innovation in music, in a genre which relies so heavily on its formula, metal is definitely one of them in all of the various subgenres. So when groups are willing to kind of, you know, spice things up or mix it up a little bit, then please continue. Yeah, this doesn't feel like black metal to me. I mean, kind of, but hear that? I don't think that's a balalaika, but there's a traditional guitar in the background. So yeah, this doesn't feel like black metal to me. I mean, I guess it's modern black metal, but the singing here too. So yeah, anyway, something different for sure. And I think we've seen this exploration of more folk themes in Russian metal so far this year, whether it be through what the songs are about, like Russian folklore, or usage of musical motifs and instrumentation in the actual music itself. For example, like here on the album misericorde by the group BABAYKA. So, yes, that is that. Okay, so this next album is actually... I've reached the tab limit. No. Little did they know, the refresh button. Okay, this is actually the album for like most of the week, and I still think that this might technically be the album of the week type thing. But... Well, I like, this is probably, so we talked about the Cena, soвершенства, not the last album, but the album before last, the extreme progressive tech death album by Human Time. And as good as that album was, this album right here, Make Babylon Great Again by Renunciation, is a tech death masterpiece. It's definitely a contender for Russian metal album of the year. It's got speed, it's got intensity and technicality. I got to bring up Archspire again. It's a mix of Archspire, Flesh God Apocalypse, and Behemoth, right? If you want that kind of just, it is intense. It is kind of a marriage of the US and the Swedish tech death sounds, but there's also nu metal riffing thrown in throughout the songs, like throughout the length of the album. Just kind of give the tracks a little bit of some flavor pop. I've seen some people also mention Children of Bodom or Bodom with the guitar sounds and specifically the solos on this album as well. The group says the sound is supposed to be more along the lines of Death or Dimmu Borgir or Emperor. I don't know. I don't really get that. And honestly, this doesn't matter. It's got like the traditional tech death metal text for the album name and the thing. Let's just get into it. Jesus. All right, where to begin? Got the groove metal here too. I forgot about that. This is also supposed to be, as far as I understand, something of like a metal super group here, because all of the members are from other metal groups. This is the group's second album together. That bass line right there. That is Archspire. This is like so inspired by Archspire, you cannot tell me otherwise. Yeah, that last one was a little bit slower, a little bit more groovy. This is the meat and potatoes here. All right, the solo. I'm gonna go back to the solo. It is Children of Bottom. Like, so light and bouncy, almost feels like a keyboard at times. Oh, also, I mean, all the lyrics are in English. Not that you can really understand anything that's going on, but, you know. Anyway. It's so technical, it's so fast, and it's so clean. I think like that's the big part of it. I mean, I guess in order to be technical, there has to be a cleanliness to the sound, but again, this is one of those albums where like jumping around really doesn't do it justice, because like in terms of metal, these songs are so dense and they shift around, and like again, there's that sort of, there's like a bit of the prog idea here as well too. So also, why is this 7 songs and 35 minutes and an album, and the BABAYKA was 7 songs and like the same time but an EP? What's going on, Spotify? Anyway, yeah. Obviously, that's a very intense sound and is not going to be for most people. But if you do like metal and you're feeling a bit adventurous, looking for something a little bit more intense, there have been a few albums when I've come across them this year. Oven by Zlo, Bellathor's album from, I think, June. And then honestly, Make Babylon Great Again by Renunciation here. But those albums, like when I first heard them, it was just like this right here. Like, this is big. Like, there's something here. Rzew also had another really great album too. So yeah, really hands down one of probably the best metal albums I can think of in a while. And we've had some pretty good ones so far this month. But yeah, Make Babylon Great Again by Renunciation. Really, really good stuff. And honestly, maybe is kind of the top album of the week, but like I said, we'll get to that in a second. We're going to finish up with pop and indie. Partly because, I don't know, if it was ending with metal, you know, maybe you just leave, because a lot of people don't like metal, and pop and indie tends to be the most popular. But there is actually a better reason for that. We have 2 really, really good albums here. And I I do feel like they deserve a bit of some credit, some discussion, and they should be highlighted. So the first one we have here is ZARIMA by the artist GERA. All right. In the words of the artist, this is a quote minimalistic indie that spills over into pulsating alternative pop, where with the gentle hand of someone to whom suffering is no stranger, we are led through each track, as though through individual remembrances, episodes from the journey of the narrator, who's searching for new meaning. End quote. The album is dedicated to the artist's grandmother, whom it is named in honor of. However, the loss felt throughout the album feels more like love lost, youth lost, even feels a bit like a memory of who the artist once was as a person. I mean, obviously the loss of his grandmother is probably in there as well, but this feels bigger than just one person. It's a very interesting album because at times it feels a lot like Fleet Foxes or Sufjan Stevens in that style of indie rock. But then there is a triptych of tracks from Was 16 through Kino that have this very teenager sort of guitar sound to it. Also, Saluki is here again because in the year of our Lord 2025, Saluki is pretty much on every third like Russian release that I'm talking about somehow. That's just the power he has on the music industry these days. Anyway, I'm just gonna get into it. I love this. Also, I don't like they have this weird thing going on over here. Yeah. This part right here. Like, this is just powerful pop music, or indie music, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, maybe I'm just getting older, but I think at the end of the day, if I had to choose between listening to this or Renunciation, most days I might actually choose this. So, not every day. Yeah, this is that sort of Fleet Foxes, Sufjan Stevens. I should really go back and re-listen to the first Fleet Foxes album. You should go back and listen to the first Fleet Foxes album. If you haven't listened to the first Fleet Foxes album, you should go do that later. Right, so it's like, it's got that very indie pop, indie rock vibe. But then it transitions into this, and it feels abrupt the first time you hear it, but it kind of, it works. It's just this weird moment. Like these three tracks, Was 16, Rockman, and Kino, offer these moments or this island of levity in what is otherwise kind of a very emotional and somewhat weighty album. Right? Like, it's definitely a tonal shift. I mean, this does all feel like indie rock. I've mentioned Saluki so many times this evening. Let's actually...
Это дежавю, или я просто не вспомнил. Как мы гуляли по дворам, я клялся, что я люблю те же группы, что и ты. Да, но спросишь, не назову те песни, что я люблю, ведь я помню лишь хиты. Помнишь, сколько нам говорили, что пора уже давно понять, кем мы хотим стать. Можем попробовать сейчас.
Also, I have not taken the time. I need to save this, and like, there is English text. Every night I dream that all my pain is long gone. I want to stay a little longer. A few more days remain, and then I'll forget you. That is the day I'll let you go. I don't know if these are lyrics translated into English from the songs, or if these are just like other messages. So yeah, that is the album ZARIMA. The artist is GERA, Amen. And really just a nice mix of things going on there. Even that last track that you were just listening to has a lot of that sort of pop. It's definitely more pop than the other ones. So it is kind of all over the place, but in a way that feels, what's the word, organic. So really good stuff. Really nice album. I don't know. I'm sure I'll be coming back to it. But we got to talk about sort of what I'm going to call my top pick of the week. And this is the album любящей, памяти. I'm probably pronouncing that way wrong because these are words I do not normally use. Любящей памяти. Yeah, that feels... Even though I am pronouncing it right, the accent is god-awful right now, so just deal with it. Любящей памяти. The artist is фото и напитки. This is an interesting one. You look at the album cover art, and for those of you that know, and for those of you who don't know, let me just show you real fast. That is Cyrillic. It looks a lot like the American football album cover. Not exactly, but similar. You can see the similarities. That's probably the point. This is Midwest emo at its core, but there is a lot more here. At times it feels like post-rock, and I can just like start playing. The first track and the final one here, the instrumental demo, are just like straight up post-rock tracks, and they are very good post-rock tracks. But then there are tracks which are в любящей памяти. Thank you. But then there are tracks here that feel like fragile indie ballads, like С днем рождения. But by and large, this is an emo album. That emotional depth that you expect from emo music is present on each and every track. This is just a lovely album. And it's like a lot of times I would put emo into the sort of rock and metal category, but this is definitely more of the indie tinged end of things, even when it does get to be a little bit more rocky than this. It's also worth noting that the group here, фото и напитки, not long before the album was due to be released, when they were in the process of mastering it, their house burnt to the ground. The house in the photo here burnt to the ground, completely destroyed. Inside the house, all of their instruments, all of their recordings, all of it was lost. So this record not all of the recordings, but like the finished album, the one that they had almost finished mastering, it was lost. This album, what we are listening to right now, is cobbled together from random files that they had laying around on other, maybe like, I don't know exactly where they had been saved, but things that had escaped the fire. And you can actually hear that in the music. There is a rawness to the sound here, right? It feels warped around the edges, as though it has been burnt by the heat of flames, or just the weight of the experiences of life in general. I noticed that a lot while listening to the vocals, sometimes the guitar lines. They feel unmastered. They feel like this is something that they quickly threw together because they had to. They lost everything, and this is what they scraped together. And even after all of that, it still... you could actually hear it right there in the vocals if you were paying attention. So, it's a very raw and emotional and kind of intimate album. And when you understand the backstory of what happened right prior to its release, it feels... I don't know. Like, there's something more to it, too. Like, not like it's an artifact of a lost civilization or something like that, or the recordings of some, post-mortem recordings of famous artists. But it still is one of those things where they lost basically everything, but they still managed to put their album out on time. Maybe not exactly in the form that they had anticipated it would be in, but in one that perhaps still reflected best what they had just experienced. It is not all slow, though, right? Also, this is not really a what's the word? A plug or anything, but I love the artwork of that beer can. Look at that. Look at that bird. It's fantastic. He's so happy. He's so happy in that hand. I guess shout out to Stam Brewing. So yeah, this is ultimately what I'm going to call my top pick for the week. Oh, also, there's another thing I found out. There is a bar/club in Moscow called Punk Fiction, and I don't know how many times I've been looking at the concert calendar and realized that that is where the show is at. It's on the second floor. It's a mini ramp that also serves as a concert floor. It's a very weird setup, to be sure, but Punk Fiction evidently is also a record label, and Foto and Napitki are on the Punk Fiction record label. So it turns out, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a weird thing I discovered. I had just figured it was a bar/club, but evidently they are being a bit more active in the music scene. So. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it does feel like, for example, with the vocal tracks, like they're not fully mixed, or that the mixing is off a little bit, right? Like there's something a bit odd with the vocal tracks. And I'm assuming this, again, they just like whatever files they had later on. Anyway, I think the story just adds so much to that, but even if you don't know the story, musically, this is an album that, I know I say it a lot, but that's kind of like the whole idea of albums. You should really just sit down from start to finish, because once this does actually start, and once you do get into it, you really aren't going to want to walk away from it. It does just flow, and it just kind of take you along with it. So yeah, the guitars feel a little bit raw right there, right? A little bit distorted, kind of like those old MP3s from the early 2000s you have sitting around on your computer, where the hi-hats are just but yeah, a lot of weight on that album, a lot of emotional weight, and musically it is very well put together. It's very dense, just in terms of the guitar work and everything too. So that's my top pick, for various reasons for the week. The artist is Photo и напитки, and let me see if I can get it correct this time. The album is в любящей памяти. It's at least closer. So, yep, that is that, and that wraps it up. We got through 14 albums again. I think that's the second week in a row I've managed to pull it off like that. I don't know. I hope. Seems like a lot of people stuck around. Got, for a Thursday evening stream, a good number of viewers. So glad everybody stuck around. I hope everyone found something to listen to or check out. That's always the idea. I know it's going to sound insane, but I think tomorrow or on Saturday, I'm actually going to release. I have to finish editing it, and then what's the word? Process it. But the video for the top picks of the first quarter of 2025 only 5 months late. So, and if you've been watching the streams, you've heard all of them before. But anyway, still, I'm going to put it out there. So you'll have some other musical content, and maybe there are some albums that you missed along the way that you can go check out, or maybe there are some albums that you had forgotten about. It'll be a nice little reminder as well. So in the next day or two, there will be an actual video coming out, not a stream, where I kind of highlight some of the top picks. And then honestly, this is not music related, but I did. I don't know. I was out in the center of Moscow on Tuesday for 3 hours filming the Mysnitskaya area. It took 3 hours because I had to wait for a wedding party to do their photo shoot, which took an hour and a half. That was not planned. Anyway, it's not beside the point. In the near future, there'll be some non-music related stuff coming too. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up because it's been going on a long time. 14 albums is a lot. So everyone have a good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is. Honestly, I don't even know anymore. Y'all take care of yourselves. You know how this goes. I will see you when I see you. And until then, пока-пока.